Hey guys, welcome back to the Adobe Live YouTube channel. My name is Jacob, or better known as by Jacob Paris. I'm a full-time freelancer and graphic designer, and I've partnered with Adobe on an 8-part series to teach you everything you need to know about turning your digital designs into real physical objects using Adobe Fresco and Adobe Illustrator. Today is episode 6, and it's all about making your art fit anything. In the last episode, we finished out the basis of our artwork, so if you missed any of the previous episodes, make sure to check those out because it's going to be super important in understanding the context of today's episode. So enough talking, let's get into it. What does it mean to have your art fit anything? Well, in episode 2, we talked a lot about gathering inspiration to understand what we're making and understand how our art will fit on that thing that we're making. And I said that different types of art are going to fit different mediums. So let's make our art fit different mediums. We initially started our design with the intentions of making it into a poster, but who says we can't make it into a tote bag or a hat or a sticker? So that's exactly what we're going to be doing today. I'm going to be showing you how to turn what we've worked on into multiple mocked up pieces of merchandise so you can get a better idea of what it's going to look like. And if you're sending these out to a printer, they can also understand what you're trying to achieve. Let's hop over to Illustrator and get into it. So you'll notice in Illustrator, we have our characters pretty much exactly where we left off, and they're oriented for a poster. But what if I didn't want to make a poster? What if I wanted to just make some stickers? That is a great place to start to reformat this image. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and start with an artboard. I'll make a second artboard for us. And as I mentioned in the last video, when we were expanding our characters, we wanted to make sure to ungroup them to keep them separate from each other for this specific reason. What we can do is we can click on our character, click Command C and Command V, and it'll make a copy of our character pretty much with all of the colors that we used in the previous. Something you'll notice is sometimes with the vector art, there's going to be some color that just doesn't paste over. Honestly, I'm not entirely sure why that happens. It happens to me pretty often, but the easiest way to fix that is literally just going to your eyedropper tool, going to the paint bucket tool, and then painting in that shape. There we go. We have one character. Easiest way to make these characters look like stickers is by adding an outline to them. My favorite method to adding an outline to characters is pretty simple. I just click Command C and Shift Command V and paste another copy of that character over the first copy. I want to click on the bottom copy of that character, and I would go over to Object and Expand. I just want to expand that one more time just to make sure that our character is fully outlined and has no vector curvature tool lines or anything like that. Then I can go over to Properties, bring up my stroke, and I can just size up the stroke on that character behind it and choose the rounded cap and rounded corners so it has a nice consistent shape. What I can also do is I can go into my fill and stroke panel on the left hand side, and I can click on my stroke and drag it up to white. Now if I highlight my whole character and drag it up into this gray space, none of the white background, you'll notice it'll have a white outline around it. This is a textbook look for any die cut stickers or really any stickers that you're going to order from a printer, and it's really easy to adjust to. All you need to do is just click on the bottom character in the layers panel, and you can just turn up the stroke as high as you want. Another effect that you can add to it to make it look even more mocked up for stickers is you can click on your bottom character, the one that is outlined, and you can go to Effect, Stylize, Drop Shadow, and just add a little drop shadow on it. For this case, I'm gonna maybe put it up to about 30. Let's make the opacity even lower and the blur high. And let's click OK. Now we can highlight our whole character, click Command G, drag our character down. And this is the basic technique that people use in order to make their vector art look like stickers and mock them up. If you want to too, you can even kind of turn it to the side a little bit so it looks like it's on a bit of an angle, and we just slap the sticker right on there, and it's that easy. So let's do it with our other two characters to show you how easy it is to just replicate this specific style. Look at that. Our character that we initially created for a poster are now ready to be made into stickers. There's a bunch of different sticker companies that you can reach out to in order to have these manufactured as stickers, but we'll go into more detail about that in the next video on how to actually export and size your artwork for different products. So we've got stickers. Now let's maybe do like a notebook. I think that'd be super fun. In order for us to mock up this notebook, obviously we're going to need some form of a mock-up. And yeah, you could go to any of your favorite mock-up websites websites and hop over to Photoshop and export this and import it back into Photoshop, but I want to show you an even easier way. Let's go over to Adobe Stock. Adobe Stock has a bunch of different options in order for you to kind of get exactly what you're looking for. They also do mockups as well, but again, I want to show you something that's even easier. So we talked about doing a little notebook, so let's look up notebook and see what we get. Let's expand a little bit more and go on to notebook on tape. I like this one a lot just because it's really nice and simple. So let's go ahead and license that. You don't necessarily need to use a licensed photo. You could just go to free Adobe Stock. That one's even easier. But for this instance, we're just going to use this example because it's the first one I found. So let's take our Adobe Stock image and import it back into our Illustrator artboard. So here's our Adobe Stock image. Let's size it to our artboard just so it's a little more convenient for us to work with. Maybe about there. Let's crop this image like so. And I'm going to show you one of the most powerful tools currently in Illustrator that you could be using right now. So let's go ahead and go back to our vector characters and let's make sure that our typeface is how we want it to. We talked in the last video about kind of being loose with the color because we didn't know what we wanted to do yet, but I'm thinking maybe we can just give it a bit of like a brownish stroke background like so. Let's change this back to like that. And let's make the inside maybe like a nice cream. I love that. So let's group our image together. Let's click Command C and Shift Command V. That is your shortcut of the video. And let's size this down for our image. And here I'm noticing that we actually did not fill in the eyes or the mouth of our character on the left, which is kind of scary. So I'm going to do that really quick. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to click on your vector art, and then you're going to want to click on our Adobe Stock image and go over to Object, Mockup, Make, and wait for the magic to happen. Now you'll get this little panel that'll pop up, and if you bring that over to the side, you'll notice that our image is being cut off by the notebook. And if you are putting two and two together, this turned our vector image into a working mockup. Of course, with larger project files and larger images, it is going to run a little bit slower. It is going to take a little bit of patience to work with, but we can just mess around with this, size this up a little bit, maybe drop it down to be a little bit smaller. Maybe we'll bring this down a little bit further. I think that looks pretty good considering that took us like 30 seconds. You'll also notice over in this panel over here, you're gonna get some branding graphic guides just imported directly from Adobe Stock. And if you click on those, it'll bring those into Illustrator very similarly to the process that we just used. You can resize that and fit it on an artboard. That is crazy how convenient you can do this, especially if you're working with other clients, because you can just build these things out and these ideas out super fast. This is extremely convenient, especially if you're feeling a little stuck on what merch you're trying to make, because here it is right in front of you. If you want to make a tote bag, now you know exactly what it's going to look like on the tote bag. But for in our case, I think we're good with just a notebook and with our stickers as well. The last and most important thing I want to do is make this print ready for the poster itself, which this process is going to look a little bit different. We're going to want to give ourselves a bit of a margin in order to work with, so we don't have to necessarily worry about our image being printed outside of that margin. And it's actually really easy. All we need to do is go up to View, go down to Rulers, and Show Rulers. Here you're going to see our sizing for our artboard and for our project file. But when our rulers come up, you'll notice we're in pixels, and that's because we set up this artboard in pixels. An easy way to get around that is just by going down to Illustrator, Settings, and go to Units, and change your general units over to inches. And now we have our inches size. Obviously, this specific artboard is huge for printing. We're not going to be printing a 42-inch poster, but a general rule of thumb when you are printing posters is you want to have at least an inch of a margin line. This can still be applied to this poster that we're working on ourselves. You'll see this is going to be our inch mark right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So what we can do is we can just click over on this left side, drag this over, hold shift, and we'll have a little line to mark our inch. We can do the same from the top down. Just go down to this point right past the 0. That's going to be an inch. And for here, we can just go back, drag this down, and drag it close to 41, which is going to be close to our inch. And same with this one. Sometimes when you're working in pixels, you'll notice that things aren't going to exactly line up when you hold shift. Easiest way to get around this is by creating a new project file and adjusting your artboard to what you're actually going to be printing your poster size to. So either 4x4 or 6x6. But for this example, I'm just showing you how to set it up so it doesn't super matter right now. The last thing I want to do is I want to add a bit of a background to these characters because I feel like it would just feel so dull and boring if it was just a regular white background. So we can get something that's a little complementary to this poster as a whole, which is probably going to be like a cream or a tan color. We could even use a similar cream to what we're working with right here. Maybe we'll bring this up into a lighter register and we will make that into a square and just use command in the brackets and bring this down. I think it's a little bright for our text, so I might change this a little bit. Let's go ahead and fix these eyes and mouth again. So maybe I can make this an even lighter cream, maybe like this color, where it's not quite white, but it's not quite cream. I think that looks okay, but we could even try a brown. We could try a dark brown. Honestly, just messing around is the best thing you can do with these types of designs because you'll never really know what works until you kind of work through the ones that don't. So keep messing around, keep having fun with it, figure out what works best for you. For me, I like this kind of dirtish brown. I think it looks really good and it's not taking away too much from the characters themselves or the text, and the text is still very well highlighted and I'm happy with it. So we have 3 separate pieces of media that could potentially be sent out to a company to get an idea of what we're trying to create and what we're trying to produce. This step is really, really important when it comes to creating and when it comes to producing your artwork on a larger scale, because yes, you can send over as many project files as you want and as many as art files as you want. But if we don't know the sizing, if we don't know the colors, if we don't have a general idea of what we're trying to achieve, the print company won't know this either. So you definitely want to get at least a basis down of what you're expecting, the stroke outline, the spacing, the coloring, all of that to look like, so you can help the printer and help them align with what you are looking for. And I know you're probably thinking, okay, so if we're sending them all this information and these mock-ups, well, what are we supposed to send them to get it printed? Now I've got good news for you. We're answering all of those questions in next week's episode. I really hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I hope it gave you some ideas of what type of merchandise you can start creating with your artwork. I highly encourage you to start using the Illustrator mock-up feature and really start messing around and just breaking the limits of what you thought would even be possible with your artwork, because really we could talk about this all day and I could show you as many examples as you want, but your artwork is always going to be yours and what you like will always be different from what I like. So if you weren't creating with me already, hop into Illustrator, give it a try, and get those ideas out there because there's nothing to lose. Next week, we're learning all about getting these mockups export ready with formatting your art for printing. This is going to be one of the most important episodes in this series, and I highly encourage you to not miss out. This is how we're going to get our end product. If you're watching this video and you've made it this far through the whole series, I want to thank you so much for sticking around. There's still so much more fun to come, and we're almost at the end. Remember to keep creating, guys, and have a great day. Bye.